This is the third and final part in the 3-part video series, so be sure to check out the first 2 before this one. Muv Luv Alternative is not about dating many girls. It's about what it means to be human. I'm not going to do a story overview because honestly, there's so much going on in this game that I would be here all day. And while I'm at it, this is a full spoilers ahead warning. Let's make this a minigame, shall we? So right now I have a score in my head, and for every negative thing I say, I will be subtracting 1 point. And at the end of this review, I will give this game a score out of 10, depending on how many points I deducted. So from hearing my review, let's see if you can figure out what score I'm gonna give it. However, let's start this on a positive note. First off, all my complaints from the previous reviews pretty much fixed or gone. Messing up routes because of simple choices? Fixed. Let's see if you can even call the things in this game routes. Hard to convey action scenes? Gone. Somehow all the action scenes are extremely engaging and easy to understand. Unnecessary downtime? Once again, pretty much non-existent. When things are really calm, I'm super engaged. Annoying, immature main character? Not only is Takeru super duper cool in this game, he's just a super fun character to follow in the story. The perfect balance of badass and flawed in my opinion. There is a good amount of flashbacks in this game. I'll go over stuff that you probably already know, but it's super easy to skip because it's very obvious whenever you're in a flashback. There is a lot of tropes in this game though. Time travel, boy meets girls, amnesia, and a bunch others. However, they are handled so well that you really don't mind. I think Alternative is perfect proof that just because it's a trope, it does not mean that we should not use it, as long as you execute it properly. One thing I personally didn't like was that they would go into too much detail about certain things. Sure, there's people out there who appreciate all this detail, but in my opinion, it is impossible to solve every what if. This game definitely tries to answer every what if question. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? They try really hard to not leave any questions unanswered, but honestly I could assume a lot of these things, so I was pretty bored hearing all these explanations. Also, when they explained the enemies, I learned more about the enemies actually seeing them out in the battlefield than from my lectures. It's just how I learned. Let's get a little bit into the story of Muv Luv Alternative. So a few people told me that I should re-review Extra after playing Alternative. And no, I'm not gonna do that. Extra is still Extra regardless of what Alternative added to it. While I enjoyed Extra, I still think it could have been better. Honestly, I think it would be the perfect game to make into an anime adaptation, or maybe even a remake, because it's definitely the weakest part of the trilogy. Something that I really appreciated about Alternative was that every death had meaning. There are so many stories where death plays a big part. However, as a viewer, you don't always care about the people that are dying. The story fails to make you care about a lot of these characters, usually making them one note or even nameless. And while this game does have fodder, you will always have one character in that group of fodder that you really know and care about, making every loss matter. This game really makes it clear that everybody's in the shopping block, so you're always on the edge, generally worried about all the people you interact with. Honestly, if I were to call this game something, it'd be a tragedy. Not a tragedy like Romeo and Juliet, where things almost feel forced to go wrong, but a much more realistic take on tragedies, where it's the opposite. A handful of people actually manage to make a miracle happen. Against all odds, the lives of these people actually make a difference in the world. Now, Takeru does go home without the problem being fully solved, but this story was never about Takeru saving the world. It was about a man who was robbed from his world and his friends, trying to gain that back. And yeah, well, as a viewer, you want all these questions answered and see how it all ends. At the end of the story, Takeru has more than earned his rest. Now, I have to make a confession. I played the uncensored version, and honestly, I am so happy I made this mistake. Everybody warned me that I should have played the censored version, but after playing this one and seeing the censored version, I have to say I enjoyed this one much more. I want to dedicate this part of the video to explaining why. So in this scene, Sumika seems to be pushing herself away from Takeru. Alternative, unlike all the other routes, Takeru actually seems pretty fixed on Sumika. He constantly says that he loves her, and Sumika seems to love him too. I mean, she's always loved him. But what makes you push away someone that you love? The answer in this case is feeling like you're not good enough for them. I'm gonna go really in depth into a pretty dark scene here, so if rape and sex trigger you, feel free to skip to this part. So the main character's love interest, Sumika, finally decides to open up about why she's been pushing him away. Using her powers, she asked Takeru to watch what happened to her. She wants him to see every bit that was done to her. She actually projects the image into his head. In this visual novel, the main enemies are called betas, most of the time painted as brainless monsters who know nothing but destruction. Well, these betas kidnapped Sumika with this world's version of the main character. The main character did try to protect Sumika with his bare hands, but these are monsters that even with robots we struggle to fight, so he was eaten alive in front of her. Afterwards, she was raped by the beta. At first, she felt terrible because she felt like she was betraying the main character, but after long enough, she started enjoying the pleasure. These beta knew exactly how to touch a human. They knew exactly what to do to make her feel all the pleasure she wanted. And in time, she forgot all about the main character. All she could think about was the pleasure and how good it felt. They started mutating her body, making her sensitive parts bigger. Soon enough, even she was the one pushing against the beta. She wanted it more than them. They even started tearing apart her body. She was covered in slime that could have potentially drugged her to feel even more pleasure. She lost everything that made her human. And all this time, he was making the main character watch. In the censored version, you don't get to actually see what was getting done to her. In my my eyes, that is betraying what Sumika wanted you to see, and in my opinion also steals from what the game is trying to tell. In my opinion, this is commentary on how women are ruined after sex. Usually if a guy hears that a girl has had many partners, they'll usually call her bad names. And also, even when someone is raped, it is a natural reaction from the body to enjoy it to some degree. It doesn't make you a bad person, but women who go through this type of stuff will feel like they lost value. In my opinion, us as viewers need to see this happen to Sumika, probably the most wholesome and pure girl in this entire series, bastardized so much by these monsters. This scene is in competition for my most traumatic scene in this game. Had I seen it censored, that would not be the case. Seeing every detail of this scene made me feel exactly how Takeru feels, and most importantly, it made me understand how Sumika feels. Takeru being able to see Sumika at her most pathetic and disgusting self, and still being able to love her as much if not more so than before, that to me is the truest form of love I've ever seen. When you truly love someone, their past mistakes will never get in the way of that. To me, that's kind of the main message of Muv Luv Alternative. Good and bad stuff will always happen in life, but you can't let it stop you from moving forward. Take things for what they are. Don't think about what should have been or what could have been. Accept reality for what it is and keep moving forward. I've experienced so much media over my life. So many stories nowadays feels like they're retreading old ground. So when I say that Muv Luv Alternative is a once in a lifetime experience, I absolutely mean it. This game gets a 10 out of 10. It had so many points above a 10 out of 10 that no matter how many points I deducted, it still would have been a 10 out of 10. This is a journey that I genuinely hope everybody experiences. I did not even cover the tip of the iceberg with this video. There is so much in this game that I think everybody can find something to love about it. I'll just leave it there for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support my Patreon if you want me to make more videos like this one.